Hello everyone, my name is Sanjeev. In this video, I will demo how to configure TLS context for a private space. Let's start. I have a private space named PS Demo 01. Let me go to the domains and TLS. So each private space have a default TLS context and it has one internal domain, internal private domain, and it has one public domain. So default TLS contexts have two domains. Application can be reached by these domains. If we do not want to connect to the deployed application using these default domains, then we have to configure the custom TLS context. Let me click the create TLS context. Here we can provide a certificate file, and there are two types of certificate file that can be provided. We can either provide the PEM file, PAM file, or JKS file. In this demo, I will create the private key and certificate in PAM format. So I will provide the PAM file here. So we can provide the public certificate and private key. And we also need to have a custom domain. So we need to register for the custom domain in some DNS provider. I have purchased the custom domain from GoDaddy DNS provider, but you can purchase the domain from any provider. In DNS provider portal, we have to configure the C record and we have to assign this star host name and with this value. This is the public domain name of the private space. So this name is same like this name. So we have to create a C record with this value. So let me go to the GoDaddy portal. I have purchased the name sanjeevtripathi.in, and here I have configured the CNAME record. This is the public domain name of the private space. So I have updated the CNAME record. So you can go ahead and update the record name star and value public domain name of the private space, and you can assign the TTL as well. How long it will take to refresh this value in DNS servers. So I have replaced the both CNAME record when I purchased this domain, custom domain. Custom domain is also called Vanity domain. So once I purchased it, I got two CNAME record and the value was some different. I went ahead and I updated these both records and I changed with the public domain name here, public domain name of private space. Now I will go to the private space and I will create the certificate and private key. And here is my notes. Here is the OpenSSL request command. I will use this command to create the private PAM file, private key PAM file, and public certificate PAM file. Here I am providing the subject. So this is a country, state, location, organization unit, and CN. So for CN, I'm providing my Vanity domain, sanjeevtripathi.in. I'm also providing two more domain using the subject alternative name, and I defined some configuration using this configuration file. So let me show you the configuration file. It is right here. So here I'm providing the request configuration, request distinguished name. So these are the values. Common name Sanjeev Tripathi. And for request extension, I'm using request extension. And here I'm defining the subject alternative name. And in this section, I'm defining two subdomain, dev.sanjeevtripathi.in, qa.sanjeevtripathi.in. So using this configuration file, I am supplying the value of extension to this command. And here is the extension value. So in total, certificate will support 3 domains. One is sanjeevtripathi.in, and there is a 2 domain using alternative name. And those are subdomain dev.sanjeevtripathi.in and qa.sanjeevtripathi.in. So let me run this command and let me generate the private key and public certificate. We got the files here. Sanjeev Tripathi -in-private. This is a private key PEM file, and this is a Sanjeev Tripathi -in-cert public certificate PEM file, and that's what we are providing. Key out. This is the name of the private key file, and this is out. This is the name of public certificate file, and that's what we are getting here. And this just generated. So I will use these files. So let me go to the private space, create TLS context. I will choose file. I will choose the public certificate file, PIM file. We can see domains here. We have 3 domains here, 2 subdomains. So we got 3 domains. We can use these 3 domains, and we can assign to the application at deployment time. An application can be connected using these domains. Now I will choose the private key. So this is a private key. I have not used any key password, so I'm not entering anything here. And we already seen that I have already set up the CNAME record. CNAME record is already set here. So I have all the configuration that is needed for creating TLS context. Let me hit the create TLS context button. Okay, we need to provide the name, custom TLS C1, create TLS context. Now we have custom TLS context, and here is the domains. You can view here, view detail. So we can use these subdomains and domain, and we can assign to the application endpoint. So let me go to the applications, deploy application. I will give the name hello app. I will use the deployment target private space CloudHub 2.0. I will choose file, upload file, and I will upload the hello app, exported app that I already exported previously. In this page, everything is default. Now I will click the Ingress tab. Here, this is the default endpoint that is using the public domain default TLS context. We can add more endpoints here. I will select dev.sanjeevtripathi.in. So this will be the endpoint, custom endpoint, custom domain endpoint. We can add more endpoint, QA. So this will be the endpoint to access the hello app, qa.sanjeevtripathi.in/hello app, and we can add the sanjeevtripathi.in as well. So this will be the one more endpoint that can be used to access the application. Deploy application. Hello application has been deployed successfully. Let me go to the settings. And here are the public endpoint. So we got the public endpoint dev, QA, and endpoint with the public domain. So let me click the dev first, dev.sanjeevtripathi.in, advance, continue, because this is a self-signed certificate, so it's not recognized. Hello, and we got the response. So we got the response using the Vanity domain, and we are using subdomain dev.sanjeevtripathi.in/application name, and here is the path. Similarly, let me access the application using qa.sanjeevtripathi.in. We have to select advanced because this is a self-signed certificate. That's why it is giving warning. So we have to say continue with the unsafe endpoint. And here I will add path hello, and we got the result. So we are able to access using qa.sanjeevtripathi.in/hello app. So this subdomain is also working. Now I will choose the sanjeevtripathi.in, Vanity domain sanjeevtripathi.in, advanced, continue with the unsafe, and I will add the path hello, and we got the response. So we are able to access the application using custom domain, and we configure the custom domain with the help of creating TLS context in a private space. So with the help of TLS context, we configured a certificate, and certificate had the 3 domains, 2 subdomain and 1 domain, sanjeevtripathi.in, and we were able to access the application using these domain. So in this example, I was using the CNAME to assign the domain, and I was using subject alternative name to assign more domains to this custom TLS context. But if these domains are not fixed and we dynamically want to assign domain to the application endpoint, then we can use the wildcard certificate. So let me go to my notes, and here is the command to create the wildcard certificate. So I'm using the configuration file. So let me open the configuration file. And here I'm using request, distinguished name, country name, state or province name, locality name, organization unit. And here in common name, I'm assigning the value star.sanjeevtripathi.in. So here I'm assigning the wildcard domain name. So we can create any subdomain that end with the sanjeevtripathi.in. So here I'm using the sanjeevtripathi-in-bile.conf with the help of -config option. So let me run this command. Command ran successfully. So this would have created 2 files, sanjeevtripathi-in-private-bile.pam private key, and here is the public certificate. Let me go here, and we have a private key, and this is a public key. 10:59, right now 11, we just created it. So now I will use the wildcard certificate to configure the custom TLS. So I will go to the private space. I will click create TLS. Here I will choose file, and here are the files. I will use the wildcard public certificate file. Okay, I selected the configuration file. I have to select the certificate file. So this is certificate file, and we got the domain that have the wildcard. So star.sanjeevtripathi.in. So this is the domain name. Now I will select the private key. This is a private key, and we already have this setting in my GoDaddy DNS provider portal. Click create TLS context. I will give the name custom TLS wildcard -1 create TLS context. So we have one more TLS context We can create more than one TLS context, and that's why we are able to add one more TLS context. So now in our application, we can also use this wildcard vanity domain. So let me go to the applications. I will go to the hello apps. I will go to the ingress. I will add endpoints. Let me select the wildcard domain. So here we can either create the subdomain for each application, or we can have a environment name. For example, if we have more environment like dev1, we can give a dev1 as a subdomain, and here in the path we can give the application name, or we can have the default setting as well. We can have application as a subdomain, and we have sanjeevtripathi.in as the rest of the domain. So let me apply the changes. Changes are getting applied. Okay, change has been applied. Okay, now we have a 5 endpoint. So we have dev1.sanjeevtripathi.in, one extra endpoint, and I will try to access the dev1. I will add the path hello, click enter, advance, continue, and we got the response. Able to access using dev1 sanjeevtripathi.in as well. So with the help of TLS context, we can access our application using custom domain, and based on the certificate configuration, we can use either wildcard, or we can have the fixed number of domain in the CNAME common name, or in the subject alternative name, and we can assign those fixed subdomains in the subject alternative name, and we can use this here to create the endpoint. With the help of wildcard, we can create a dev1, QA1, or any number of subdomain that is needed. So dynamically we can add this dev1, QA1, all those stage 1 domains, and we can access the application using those subdomains. So these are subdomain, and this also subdomain. This is application based subdomain. This is the public domain. For this subdomain, configuring the CNAME record in the DNS provider portal is sufficient. But to access these kind of domains, where we have sanjeevtripathi.in vanity domain endpoint with the domain name, I also configured the A record. So let me show you. I changed this A record value. So I went ahead and I added the A record. Here you can see the type is A record, name @ and here is the value. This value is I got it from private space public DNS name. I went to the private space, and here is the public DNS target, public DNS domain, and in command prompt I did ns lookup private space public DNS name, ns lookup. So these are the 3 IP addresses that I got corresponding to this public domain name, and I used this record. You can use any IP address. So these are the IP address corresponding to the availability zone. So this is the IP address that I used here, because in the A record you have to provide the IP address. You cannot provide the public domain name. So you cannot provide this public domain name that can resolve to 3 IPs. You have to choose one of the IP. So I choose this IP, but you can use any IP, and then you can save it. So with this help, we can access the application that have the vanity domain type this. that is a custom domain. Note the subdomain. So for custom domain, you have to have the A record, and that's how I was able to access these kind of endpoints, because this vanity domain resolved using this A records. But for wildcard, the CNAME record is sufficient that can resolve using this CNAME record. All the wildcard domain like this or this can be resolved using C record itself, and that's what it is showing here. So for a wildcard domain or for a subdomain, CNAME record is sufficient, but for the vanity domain, I had to change the E records. So with the help of creating TLS context, we can invoke our application using the vanity domain or custom domain. We don't have to use the public domain. The application can still be accessed using public domain. Like if I will go here, and I can still access the application using public domain. This endpoint does not have self-signed certificate. That's why we didn't get a warning. Let me add the path of application, and we got the response. So the default domain is still working while we are using the more than one custom domain. So with the help of custom domain, the application can be accessed using vanity domain, using custom domain, and these TLS context, these certificate configuration, secure the inbound traffic that is coming from the invoker of the or client of the application or API to the private space. The transport layer gets encrypted using TLS context. It could be either default TLS context or the custom TLS context, and the communication between client to this mule application secured by this TLS context configuration, TLS protocol. So TLS context configuration, either default TLS context or custom TLS context, secure the inbound communication to the private space. So the application communication gets encrypted using this TLS context certificate configuration, and custom TLS configuration allow a configuration of endpoint based on custom domain, vanity domain, or subdomain. We don't have to use the public domain. This is all in this video. If you like this video, please subscribe our channel and hit the like button. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much.